Hello BookTube, my name is Elizabeth. Welcome back to my channel, Book as in Books. I have a tag for you today. It is the Contradictions Book Tag. It was created a little while ago by Daniela at Only If for a Page. Yes, that is the name of the channel, and I was tagged by Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading. I will leave links to both of the channels in the description box below, but I also encourage you to go watch Kelly's video. It's hilarious. She is completely tortured at the idea of saying that she does not like a book that is popular on BookTube, and I have no problem with that at all. I think if I don't like a book, I'm going to tell you. I feel under no obligation at all to like a book that is popular just because it's popular, or not to say that I like a book, that I don't like a book just because the book is popular. So you're going to hear what I think. Question 1. I love this genre, but I didn't like this book. Well, first things first, I have a bit of a bone to pick with the idea that if you like a genre, you're supposed to like everything in it. No, I judge every book individually. That being said, in the spirit of the tag, I love historical mysteries. I read a bunch of them. This one, I hated. Anne Perry, An Echo of Murder. I read a whole bunch of Anne Perry a little while ago. I don't remember exactly when, but I'm going to say about 10 years ago, I used to read a lot of Anne Perry. And somehow along the way, I fell out of love with her books. And then one day I found this one in the bargain section of the bookstore. So I decided, okay, it's been a while. I'm going to give her another chance. And I hated this book. That was a big, massive plot hole. And nothing was going on for a long time. The sleuth was basically just walking around, not knowing what was going on, and not really asking any questions. And there was one potential witness that could have been very important, but the doctor said, oh no, he won't remember anything. So he was just never questioned or anything. So we don't know what happens to that character. And anyway, I did not like this book. So basically, I have now given up on Anne Perry. I'm not reading her books anymore because I don't like them anymore. Question number 2. I rarely read this genre, but I loved this book. The genre I rarely read, well, there's more than one, but one in particular is fantasy. I have read very few fantasy books in my life. A handful of Terry Pratchett's, the Harry Potter series, just The Hobbit. I never read the Lord of the Rings trilogy, whether it's the Fellowship of the Ring or the other ones. And yeah, that's basically it for the fantasy books that I've read. But there's another one that I've read and I really liked. It's Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I read this last year and I just loved the book. Now, of course, it's not epic fantasy. It's not high fantasy. I don't know exactly what sort of fantasy it is, but it is a fantasy book and I did love it. So if you're like me and you're not very much into elves and hobbits and I don't know what else, perhaps Piranesi could be an entry into fantasy. I really liked it. Question number 3. I love this trope, but I didn't like this book. I don't know what a trope is. I'm just going to pretend that trope is some sort of element that is common to multiple books and that you may like or not like. So just that, a common element to multiple books. And that trope I'm going to choose that I normally love would be a Regency romance. It's more a genre. It's not necessarily a genre, not romance in the genre sense, but a love story set during Regency, and more specifically, the world of Jane Austen. So in theory, I should like Jane Austen retellings, and I've read a few, and some are okay, but there's one in particular that I hated. It is The Second Life of Mrs. Collins by Miranda Markwell. I read that on script, so I didn't pay for the book. But I felt like such a sucker. That is clearly an attention grab. It's not the world of Jane Austen at all. She just picks the characters, but they behave in a way that has nothing to do with the world of Jane Austen. And I felt like a complete sucker for having clicked on that book and having read that book. So I just really, really, truly hated every page of that book. Don't read it if you love Jane Austen. And of course, I've never read anything else by that author. I just don't trust her. Question 4. I hated this trope, but I loved this book. A trope that I do not really like is the unreliable narrator. And the reason is I don't see it coming. I fall for it every time. I believe the narrators are reliable by default. And I don't like I don't like it. And one exception is The Good Soldier by Maddox Ford, because I knew it was an unreliable narrator, so I saw it coming. So I could put a little red flag every time the narrator was being unreliable. Well, there would have been a flag on every page, but it was every time the narrator said, "Upon my word." But upon my word, twice in the same page. By heavens. Just heavens. Yeah, so basically every time he was swearing he was telling the truth, and he just was bullshitting all along. So I really like this one, regardless of the unreliable narrator. Question number 5. I love this author, but I didn't like this book. The author is Lucy Maud Montgomery, who wrote the Anne of Green Gables series, and I've read all of her novels. And until a few years, just until last year, in fact, I would have told you I love every single one of her books. But last year, I reread A Tangled Web. It was awful. It's a terrible book. It's poorly constructed, way too many characters, all named Penhallow or Dark. And it's just completely confused at the beginning, and then at the end there too, well, after the beginning, after the big opening scene where all the characters are presented all at once, then the story divides into a bunch of multiple storylines. Some are interesting, some are not, and most are not, I would say. And yeah, it's a terrible book. Unfortunately, I'm not going to reread that one. It's not a good book. Question number 6. I previously disliked a book by this author, but I loved this book. That author would be Balzac. This is Eugénie Grandet. So when I was in college, we had to read Balzac. It was a mandatory reading, and it was Old Goriot that I had to read, and I did not like it. Generally, I liked books that I had to read for school, but in that particular case, I did not. And I did not touch a single Balzac for 20 years. And last year, I decided to give him another chance, and I read this one, and I really liked it. And since then, I have read 2.5 more. The other one that I read after that was Colonel Chabert, that I really liked. And then I read An Old Maid, that I liked only so-so. And now I'm more or less stuck in the middle of Cousin Pons, which is not that good. So yeah, but Balzac, he deserves a second chance. Question 7. I love this cover, but I didn't like this book. I don't like books because of the cover. So I was attracted to the cover because it's gorgeous, and this collection in general has gorgeous covers like this, abstract patterns, very colorful. But I read the summary at the back, and I liked it, so I decided to buy it. Good for you, it's not translated in English, because that book is just awful. It's just, it's horrible. The story is that of an overweight girl, and I'm saying overweight kindly. She is obese, morbidly obese, to the point of being almost unable to walk and of getting stuck in a door frame. So there's this girl who has basically no personality. The only reason she's in the book is because she is that fat. And then, of course, when she is stuck in the door frame, she needs help to get out, and there's a carpenter that comes, and that carpenter is a man who is at least twice the age of the girl. I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure he was 30-something years old, and the girl is only 16. And he's attracted to big women. But that attraction is just purely creepy in this book. And there are a whole bunch of things that are absolutely wrong in this book. It's basically offensive. So it's not translated in English. Good for you, and I hope for you it never is, because it's god-awful. I hate this book. I'm keeping it because the cover is pretty. 8. I don't like this cover, but I love this book. This. Okay, the cover in and of itself, the object is not necessarily ugly. So this object is an antiquity from an antique object from Greece. And this book is set mainly in Corsica. So there are 3 novellas, short stories in this book, which is sort of a collection. The first one is about a statue. So a statue of a human woman with a head and arms. Not this. And the second and the third have nothing to do with any antiquity whatsoever. The only reason I can think somehow that this is on the cover of this book is that 2 of the stories are set in Corsica, and the flag of Corsica has a figure on it that more or less somewhat little bit looks like this figure on the side, the black one. That's it. There's no other link at all between the cover and the content of the book. And just because the object in itself is beautiful doesn't mean that a picture of it on a book cover makes it a beautiful cover. So I hate the cover of this book, but I really love the book. Colomba is one of my favorite novellas. I really love that book. So yeah, that was question number 8. And question number 9 is tag someone. Now this tag is a bit old. I'm pretty sure it has been around a lot on BookTube. So I'm just going to tag one person whose channel is new enough that she probably hasn't done this tag. And that would be Lindy from Lindy's Magpie Reads. And I'm sure she has opinions too and is not shy from sharing them. So that is it for me. Thank you everyone for watching. I will see you in the next video. À la prochaine!